Hello, my dear squids. You read the title. Today, we're going to be talking about the most amazing motorcycle engines ever made. This one's going to be a fun one, so let's get right into it. The first engine on the list today is the CP4 from Yamaha. While Yamaha didn't outright invent the crossplane engine design, with it existing throughout various moments in history in the automotive world, they were the first to apply it on a large scale in the motorcycle segment. The CP4 is the four-cylinder engine that has lived inside the YZF R1 since 2009. Like many new inventions of race replica sport bikes, the CP4 engine design was derived from their MotoGP bike. In layman's terms, remember I am not an engineer, Yamaha designed the crossplane crankshaft engine to reduce inertial torque within the engine. Inertial torque is a result of the crankshaft increasing and decreasing in speed as the pistons fire within the cylinder. By implementing a crossplane design that fires at a 270-degree interval, the crankshaft spins at one constant speed and reduces inertial torque. With these R1 engines being run at such high RPMs, the reduction in inertial torque has clear advantages for power delivery. Maybe equally as important as making more power efficiently, the CP4 found in the R1 has a super unique and pleasing engine sound and characteristic that is just not found in other inline four-cylinder motorcycle engines. The uneven firing order makes the four-cylinder engine sound more like a super high-revving V-twin or an exotic burbling V8 from a supercar. Mechanical advantages aside, the sound alone is enough for the CP4 to earn a spot on today's list. Additionally, Yamaha uses a similar crossplane engine design in many of their parallel twin engines, and arguably since the 270-degree crossplane twin trend has began, that many other manufacturers have since adopted. Let's get a sound check on the CP4 from Yamaha. The next motorcycle engine on the list today is the Ducati Desmo Quattro. The Desmo Quattro engine has lived in Ducati's superbike since 1986 and would ultimately be the power plant that helped Ducati dominate world superbike throughout the 90s. The name Desmo Quattro refers to the desmodromic valve system that was used in these motorcycles. The desmodromic valve system is a type of valve actuation that uses a separate cam and rocker arm for both intake and exhaust valves rather than just a single spring. This allows for more precise control of the valves and allows for higher engine speeds and power output, plus more expensive valve services. But hey, no one ever said Ducatis were cheap to own. Like, literally never. No one has ever said that combination of words. The Desmo Quattro range of motorcycles was introduced in 1987 with the launch of the Ducati 851, which was powered by an 851cc 90-degree L-twin engine that produced 95 horsepower. This model was followed by the 888 in 1991, which featured an 888cc engine and increased power output to 110 horsepower. Both of these models were highly successful in road racing, winning several Superbike World Championships in the hands of famous racers like Marco Lucinelli, Doug Poulin, and Carl Fogarty. The Desmo Quattro engine and subsequent motorcycles were pivotal in Ducati becoming the dominating force in racing that they are known for today. The Desmo Quattro was also the basis for the esteemed Ducati 916, which was designed by Massimo Tamburini and is considered to be one of the most beautiful sport bikes ever made. The 916 was launched in 1994 and featured a 916cc engine and produced around 130 horsepower. The 916 wasn't just a pretty face, it also slayed in World Superbike and won 4 world championships. Let's get a sound check of that classic 916. We can't talk about amazing motorcycle engines without mentioning the Honda NSR 500 and its screaming two-stroke siren song. The Honda NSR 500 is a race bike that was produced by Honda that they used to compete in the 500cc class of Grand Prix racing from 1984 to 2002. The NSR 500 was powered by a V4 two-stroke engine. The V4 two-stroke engine was a revolutionary design for its time, as it offered a significant increase in power output compared to the traditional inline 4 two-stroke engines that were commonly used in GP racing. The V4 engine design allowed for a more compact and lightweight package, which gave the NSR 500 a significant advantage on track. The original NSR 500 engine, which was introduced in 1984, had a displacement of 499 cc's and produced around 145 horsepower. Throughout the years, Honda continued to develop and improve the engine, increasing the displacement to 503 cc's in 1989 and then 511 cc's in 1991. By the end of its production, the NSR 500 engine produced around 215 horsepower and revved to a staggering 18,500 RPM, with all that power being all the way at the tippy top in a narrow power band, making these bikes horrifying to ride. The NSR 500 was ridden by famous racers like Freddie Spencer, Eddie Lawson, Mick Doohan, Alex Crivier, and Valentino Rossi. The NSR 500 was super successful in the 500cc class and helped Honda win multiple MotoGP World Constructors and Riders' Championships. Wow, glory days for Honda. You don't see that anymore. The Honda NSR 500 is considered one of the most successful and iconic motorcycles in the history of Grand Prix motorcycle racing, and its revolutionary V4 two-stroke engine played a big role in that success, so I couldn't leave it off the list of the most amazing engines. Let's get a sound clip. It's hard to argue that motorcycle sport bikes kind of peaked in the mid-2000s before manufacturers began seeing diminishing returns as emissions regulations started to tighten. New sport bikes might make more power, but they're also more muted and dumbed down by rider aids and computerized fail-safes. But back in the mid-2000s, an uncensored leader bike making less power would blow the pants off of most Zoomer riders who are used to Big Brother checking on their homework for them. So in honor of all the squids who suffered from road rash in their cargo shorts in 2005, the next motorcycle engine on the list today is the K5 Gixxer 1000. The K5 Gixxer is a pure, unadulterated sport bike that unladen with gizmos and gadgets and unapologetic of its carbon emissions. It only wants one thing, and it is disgusting: to go 186 miles per hour on one wheel. The K5 Gixxer 1000 was made in 2005 and 2006. Its 999cc inline-4 engine made 178 horsepower at the rear wheel. It had zero traction control, zero ABS, and zero ride modes. It had a good pure engine, good brakes, and good suspension. And the only other thing it needed was a good rider, which was in short supply with most Suzuki people. On that note, the K5 Gixxer 1000 was the only motorcycle from Suzuki to ever win a World Superbike Championship when it was ridden by Troy Corser in 2005. There have been plenty of wild and crazy motorcycle engines throughout the history: 6 cylinders, 3 cylinders, 2 strokes, V8s, but the K5 Gixxer engine is a pure and purpose-built motorcycle engine. And as all the K5 Gixxer squids can attest, it is one of the best sport bike engines ever made, and it's still being produced kind of in an iteration today. Let's get a sound clip of the K5 Gixxer Thou. Now guys, we have a super special giveaway bike coming later this week. It is a truly legendary bike that I think you guys are gonna go bananas over. Can you guess what it is? Here's a hint. Other than the Triumph Daytona 675R, it was my dream bike before I started riding motorcycles almost 10 years ago. Maybe it's the namesake of the channel. Anyways, if you want to find out what our new modern classic giveaway is going to be, head over to yammynoob.co and become a member. Get 10% off on all purchases on our store, and you'll also get access to the Discord server where you can get behind the scenes looks on everything that's going on here at Yammy Noob. If you want to find out what the next giveaway bike is, that's the way to do it. Head over to yammynoob.co, select one of our most popular bundles, and join up. Let's take a minute to step away from screaming racing engines and instead pay a little respect to a classic air-cooled engine that held a special spot in motorcycling for longer than it had any right to. Cool your jets, I am not talking about the Harley Evo. That's the last thing I need. You all freak out when I say bad things about Harley, and then you also freak out when I say good things about Harley. So luckily for you, I'm not talking about Harley. I'm talking about the air-cooled BMW 247 boxer engines that were around from the 1920s through the 1990s. Some notable motorcycles that this airhead engine lived in are the R80 and the R100. The R80 was made from 1977 through 1996 and used a 797cc boxer engine. This motorcycle came in a bunch of different trims, from touring models to the off-road spec R80 GS, which had its fair share of limelight during the Paris-Dakar rallies of the 1980s. The R100 had a 980cc air-cooled boxer engine. This bike was made from 1977 to 1996 as well. In the early years, it made just 60 horsepower, but by the 90s, it would ultimately end up making closer to 70 horsepower. Wow. Just like the Evo engine, the BMW airheads have been far more prevalent and long-lasting than any spec sheet warrior might have expected them to be. There is something honorable and honestly amazing about a motorcycle engine being lumpy, slow, and outdated, but still cherished by thousands of people. And I mean, to be frank, a boxer engine in a motorcycle is pretty dumb to begin with. Like, they're charming or whatever, but it doesn't really make any sense. The cylinders just stick out of the frame. Why? And these engines were made for nearly 100 years, and people still love them. That is amazing. Now, I might not love the sound of these engines, but we do need to get a sound clip of them. Okay, now we'll go back to semi-modern times and forget about those lumpy old air-cooled engines. The next motorcycle engine on the list is one that is near and dear to my heart, and that is the 675cc triple from the Triumph Daytona and subsequently Street Triple. The Daytona was in production from 2006 until 2017 in 2 different versions and won the award for Best Middleweight Motorcycle in 2006 and 7. The whole bike is a great package, but for today's video, the 3-cylinder is the star of the show. By the final year of production, this engine was making 128 horsepower and 55 foot-pounds of torque. Compared to a standard 4-cylinder 600 class sport bike that are often really peaky, the Daytona has a lot more low-down punch and a super linear power band. And the engine just sounds so good. There is no denying that. The Street Triple is still in production, even though now it uses a 765cc engine that revs a little bit less. The Triumph 675 Triple is still such a nice engine, which you better believe since I've made the Daytona my track bike for years now. Let's get a sound clip of the classic 675cc Triple. And the last bike on the list today is an oddball. Most of the engines I've chosen to highlight are long-standing engines that have solidified each manufacturer's prowess in the class or success in the market, but they aren't just one-off crazy designs that were fantastical in their ingenuity, but short-lived in reality. But the last engine on the list today is just that, a short-lived one-off that was too advanced and too complex even for the masterful engineers that originally designed it, and that is the Honda NR750 V4. At the time of its release, motorcycle racing was dominated by 2-stroke engines, and Honda thought, how can we make a 4-stroke engine make power like a 2-stroke? Well, they would have to double the cylinder count, and instead of making a V8 motorcycle engine, they decided to make a 4-cylinder engine with oval pistons, a design that was intended to mimic an 8-cylinder engine with the advantage of less friction from half the amount of cylinder walls. This oval piston V4 was unfortunately very short-lived as MotoGP quickly made a rule forbidding oval piston engines from competing. Not only was this engine a super forward-thinking design, the entire motorcycle was innovative. It was decked out with carbon fiber and had a single-sided swing arm. Honda fanboys have speculated that the Ducati 916 actually took many design cues from the Honda NR750, but I'm not sure whether we will ever determine once and for all if that is a cold hard fact. Thank you for making it to the end of the video. Please tell me all about the bikes I didn't mention. Can we all just agree that every motorcycle engine is amazing? Ninja 650 engine? I mean, come on, that's a mean piece of machinery. Fact: food and drink taste different in an airplane compared to on the ground. There are several reasons for this: lack of humidity, lower air pressure, and the background noise. Goodbye.